This is TWiT.
Be careful when you flip that switch, because according to the Russian government, their recent RU-net disconnection test was successful. Monday of Christmas week, the Russian government announced that it had concluded a series of tests during which it successfully disconnected the entire country from the worldwide internet. The tests were carried out over multiple days, starting the previous week, and involved Russian government agencies, local internet service providers, and local Russian internet companies. The goal of the tests, which we've talked about previously, was to determine and verify whether the country's entire national internet infrastructure, known inside Russia as RU-net, could function without access to the global DNS system and the external internet. And of course, this disconnect, especially DNS, which is immediately came to everyone's attention as, ooh, how are you going to do that? Dropping off the internet is not easy. After they pulled the switch, all internet traffic was rerouted internally, effectively making Russia RU-net the world's largest intranet. That is, a big network that is not connected to the rest of the internet. Although intranets normally have gateways that hook them to the internet, it became a private network. The government was not interested in revealing any technical details about the tests and what exactly they consisted of. It only said that the government tested several disconnection scenarios, including a scenario that simulated a hostile cyber attack from a foreign country. I'm not sure that would work that well, but what the heck? And if a cyber attack would normally have some sort of technical agency within the environment that it's bound to attack, and it would probably work autonomously, especially now that Russia has just announced to the whole world that, hey, we're able to pull the switch. So if you really did want to attack Russia, you'd arrange to be switch resistant. And we know there are lots of ways to do that. But in any event, this was all cited by multiple Russian news agencies. And Alexei Sokolov, who's the deputy head of the Ministry of Digital Development, Communications, and Mass Media, said, quoted, he said, quote, "It turned out that in general, both authorities and telecom operators are ready to effectively respond to possible risks and threats and ensure the functioning of the internet and the unified telecommunication network in Russia." He said the results of the tests would be presented to President Putin in 2020. Of course, we've discussed, as I mentioned, this plan several times in the past, so we already understand its outline. The tests were the result of many years of planning and included some required lawmaking by the Russian government, as well as physical modifications to Russia's internal internet infrastructure. The tests had originally been scheduled for April of 2019, but ended up being delayed until this week of before and during Christmas to give the Kremlin time to pass their new so-called Internet Sovereignty Law, which grants the Russian government the power to disconnect the country from the rest of the internet at will, which apparently it didn't have before that. And with little explanation on the grounds of, yes, you can just imagine the next phrase, national security. So to enable this, the law mandates that all local internet service providers be able to reroute all internet traffic through strategic choke points under the management of Russia's communications ministry. So as I understand it, basically there's been a big rewiring which has occurred in order to make this possible. And ISPs are now running their traffic through these choke points. And these choke points thus serve as a gigantic kill switch for Russia's connection to the external internet. And it's been noted that it also provides a powerful opportunity for internet surveillance, not unlike China's Great Firewall technology. That is, when you've got all internet traffic transiting a few choke points, well, that's where you put your big monitoring technology if you want to see what's going on through those choke points. So, as I mentioned, it's truly difficult in this day and age to consider. I can't imagine having the U.S. being disconnected from the entire rest of the world. I mean, who knows what the consequences would be? What critical infrastructure things would break when they lost contact with things outside of our geographic boundary? It's a little bit like the Y2K problem. Exactly. It really is something that you need to consider very carefully. And frankly, I have to say, I'm a little envious of Russia that they have the ability to do this. It's a challenge, and it did take them, even with as much control as their government has, it took them years to be able to pull this off from just a technology standpoint.
I don't know. I can't imagine much harm would happen if the U.S. was cut off from the rest of the world. I mean, I'm an optimist, so maybe that's my flaw. But I don't see how anything could possibly go wrong.
Okay.
He's like, they're there.
Okay, Jason. Yeah.